Hello, 8th graders. Today we're going to be working with parallel lines. As far as our I can statement, I can write a linear function that is parallel or perpendicular, to a given function. However, we are really only going to concentrate on parallel lines today. Parallel lines. Parallel lines are lines that are in the same plane that never meet. So in other words, if we were talking about parallel lines, then they would go on and on forever and they would never touch. Note, if the slope of two equations is the same, then the lines are parallel. So today we're going to be concentrating on what is our m value. And as stated, if m is the same, if m's are equal to each other, then the equation is in fact parallel. And that should make sense because if this line and this line are traveling at the same rate of change, then they're never going to touch. And that's what makes them parallel. Find the slope of a line parallel to the given line. In this equation, we know the format y is equal to mx plus b, so we can easily identify our slope, or negative 1/2. So that would be the slope of the line. And we could use that slope to write another equation if necessary. But in this case, we just have to identify the value of m. Number 2, from this equation, we don't know our slope. So we have to put it in slope-intercept form in order to get it that way, or to find the slope. I know that in order to put it in slope-intercept form, I need to be solving for y. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides of the equation. So I end up with negative 4y is equal to negative 2x, plus 12. So I wanted to move that x term up front. And then I can solve for y by dividing both sides by a negative 4. Y is equal to, I've got a negative over a negative. I know that's going to make a positive 1/2. It reduces down, 2/4 reduces down to 1/2 x. And then now I have a 12 divided by a negative 4. That gives me a negative 3. Now all of that just so we could identify our slope, or m value, which in this case is m is equal to 1/2. So if the equation is in standard form, we need to put it in slope-intercept form in order to solve for m. Are the graphs of y is equal to negative 2x minus 1 and 4x plus 2y equals 6 parallel to one another? Well, I can pick out the slope right away in the first equation. M is equal to negative 2. But in the second equation, we're going to have to first change it into slope-intercept form. I was looking to see if it was the same equation as before, but it's not exactly. Close to. So now we have 2y is equal to, I want to get 4x on the left side. I want to move it from the left to the right. That's going to make it a negative 4x. Another way to think of that is to subtract 4x on both sides of the equation. This is a positive 6. From here, we're solving for y, so I needed to divide through by 2 on both sides. Y is equal to negative 4 divided by positive 2 gives me a negative 2x, and then 6 divided by 2 gives me a 3. As far as the slope is concerned, looks like it is a match because our slope is the same in both equations. So we would want to answer yes, the graphs are parallel. Write an equation for the line that contains the point negative 2, 3, and is parallel to y is equal to 5/2 x minus 4. So in order to do that, we're going to, whenever you're given a point, then that is kind of an indication that you're going to use the formula point slope form. So we know that that is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So as far as the point is concerned, negative 2 is my first x coordinate and 3 is my first y coordinate. In this case, I'm only given one ordered pair. If you could be given two ordered pair, and then you might have to solve for m. But in this case, we're given the equation, we're given the point, so we're just going to use point slope form in order to substitute in. Remember that the equation calls to subtract. The value of our y coordinate is 3. As far as the m is concerned, I can go back over to the equation and identify m, which is 5/2. 5/2 is our m value. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute that into the equation. We're just picking it apart. And then x minus, of course, my x1 value is -2. Now this isn't quite in point slope form, so I'm going to go ahead and just clean it up. It's a negative, which is going to make that a positive. And this is in point slope form. But we don't want to put it in point slope form. We want to go ahead and change it into slope-intercept form. As I've stated earlier, because everybody's equation is always going to be the same in slope-intercept, so we want to just get in the habit of writing in point slope, but then distributing out so that you can have it in slope-intercept. So now we're going to distribute, so that's going to get rid of our parentheses, y minus 3 equal to 5/2 x. When I multiply 5/2 times 2, it's just like the 2's cancel, and then I end up with plus 5. We're almost there. To get our y by itself, we need to add 3 to both sides of the equation, and that's going to leave us with y is equal to 5/2 x plus 8. And that, my friends, is the answer, and that's going to be obviously slope-intercept. Write an equation for the line that contains -3, 4 and is parallel to y is equal to -5/3 x plus 1. We know a couple of things about an equation. First of all, we need to identify m. We know that lines are parallel when the slope is the same. As far as getting there, we need to use our equation. Our point slope equation, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. I'm going to label x1 and y1 and go ahead and substitute in. My y coordinate is 4. My m coordinate is -5/3 x minus, in this case, -3. I'm going to go ahead and substitute that in to the equation. And then I just can't live with the negative. I've got to change that then just to clean it up. A negative, of course, makes a positive. That's going to be x plus 3. The next step is to distribute. Y minus 4 is equal to -5/3 x. This is going to cancel, and I end up with a -5. From here, we need to add 4 to both sides of the equation. Y is equal to -5/3 x, and then -5 and +4 gives me a -1. So now we have written an equation that is parallel to our original line. And also, not only is parallel, because we know if the slope is the same, it's going to be parallel, but also that it would go through the point -3, 4. So in other words, if we went back and substituted that in, then that would work. It would go through that particular line. All right, I want you to pause the video, and when you have finished doing this example, then I want you to go ahead and start it up. If you want to first, the first thing I will tell you the first step, and that is to put this in slope-intercept form so that we can find the slope. I'll go ahead and help you with that, and then I'll let you pause the video at that point. So let's go ahead and add 7x to both sides, because I know that I'm solving for y. 3y is equal to 7x minus 2. Divide through both sides by 3. Y is equal to 7/3 x minus 2/3. As far as the m value is concerned, then our m is 7/3. Now you can pause the video and use your point slope formula to write an equation in slope intercept form that would be parallel to the original. Once you finish that, then go ahead and start the video back up again. The value of y1 is -5. Our value of m is 7/3. X minus 1. Our value of x was 1. Now I need to clean this up a little bit. So I've got a negative, negative. That's going to give me a positive over here. And then I can go ahead and distribute. I don't want to do that yet because I want to make sure that we've written it in point slope form correctly. So this right here, that would give us, if the direction said to write the equation in point slope form, this would be point slope form without the negative, negative part. So that's going to be point slope. Now we're going to go ahead and distribute. To get rid of the parentheses, we end up with, excuse me, 7/3 x minus 7/3, or I can change that into 2 1/3. So for now, I'm just going to leave it as 7/3, and then we can finish that at the very last step. Y, from here, we're going to get our y by itself. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 5. I want to do that on both sides of the equation, leaving my slope as improper, so 7/3 x, and then -7/2 minus 5. That's going to end up with, it's going to be a final answer of -7 1/3. So once you put that in your calculator, so I do -7 ABC2 minus 5. Actually, okay, I need you to back up with me for just a minute. I couldn't read my writing right here, so that's going to be 7/3. We had, yeah, 7/3 x minus 7/3. Oh, much better. So now I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So we have, I'm going to actually go ahead and change that into a mixed number now. That'll just be a little bit easier to work with. So we had y plus 5 is equal to 7/3 x. And then -7/3 is actually -2 1/3. Okay, now we can subtract 5 from both sides. Good. Y is equal to 7/3 x, and then that's going to give us a -7 1/3 for our final answer. All right, and that is going to do it for us for writing an equation that is parallel to the original.